Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next interview of the Masters of Manifestation Online Summit 2020. Today, I'm with Tanya Lopez. Very glad to have you here, Tanya. Thank you for accepting my request. Tanya is a certified coach and event strategist and designer. I really love her story, her background, her knowledge and experience. She grew up in America. She had worked in the corporate field for Mindvalley, for Nike, NBC Universal, and she's very used to taking leaps of faith, like literally jumping into uncertainty, not knowing where she's going, and following her heart and her desires, feelings, and intuitions. So we will have a discussion about that with her today. Tanya, welcome.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. As I said, yeah, I'm really glad to have you here on a virtual stage today. We met each other something like 2 months ago, and now you are one of the speakers of this event. So I'm glad that we met.
Yes, me too.
Uh, to start, can you sum up your story the way you want? It's free. There is no direction. You have 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the attendees.
So, my name is Tanya Lopez. I'm a certified conscious connection coach, meaning that I guide entrepreneurs and leaders to come into a deeper connection with themselves, with their bodies, with their emotions, with something greater, such as their purpose. Because I really believe that the connection that we have with ourselves is the foundation and the portal to the connection that we can have with others and the connection that we can have with life. So, from this place of deep connection and authenticity, we are so much better equipped to intentionally design and create the life and business of our dreams. So that's my focus at the moment. As you mentioned, I'm also a transformational event producer and strategist. I've been organizing transformational events all over the world for the past 10 years. And before that, I had a background in PR and communications in corporate America. And aside from the professional side of things, I've also been on a deep internal journey to reconnect myself back to my heart, my body, my intuition, my purpose. And that's been a beautiful lifelong journey for me.
Okay, thank you for that. So my first question for you is about manifestation.
Mm.
I guess we all have different meaning definition for manifestation. What what is manifestation for you?
Manifestation for me means holding an intention and bringing that into reality.
Okay. So holding it in your within, like in your heart, in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. So having a desire in your mind, in your heart, and really holding the intention to make that happen.
Okay. So how did it all start with your manifesting journey? From can be from an idea, from an intuition.
Yeah.
Some people call it a calling or a vision.
Mm,
I have speakers who told me that they simply grab an opportunity that came to them suddenly.
yeah.
I remember that you told me that you've always had this desire to create a lifestyle where you can work from anywhere.
Yeah.
You can travel while working. That was your feeling, your vision for yourself. So how did it all start with that?
Mm. I think the seed was planted for me at a very young age through seeing photos of my parents travel all over the world. My mom was an airline stewardess for Avianca, Colombian airline, and my father was an international businessman. And I just remember seeing these pictures of them that planted the seed, and the seed was just, somewhere deep inside of me at a very young age. And then I would say what really was super instrumental to me was doing a year abroad in college. I studied abroad in Sevilla, Spain, and my
Mhm.
world just completely expanded in terms of what was possible, a whole other way of life and of living. And when I left Spain, my deepest desire was to go back someday and to have a life of travel and of adventure and to live overseas. And um, yeah, that was really my dream. I wanted a life of freedom, and like you said, my dream was to be able to live and work from anywhere. My highest value and dream was total freedom.
Okay. But you settled, right? You came back to America and you settled,
I
right?
I did. I went back to America. I had to. I had 1 year left of university to graduate. And then I got this amazing job in New York at a boutique PR agency. And I had some very high-end clients, a very glamorous job. Um, and in many ways, I was really, really blessed. And I also had 10 vacation days per year. So there was a part of me that, was really grateful and thankful for this incredible career that I had. And at the same time, there was a part of me that just was yearning for freedom and adventure and feeling so limited in that opportunity.
Okay. So you had that desire for having a lifestyle full of travel and working from
Mm,
anywhere. Um, but you still had a corporate job, right?
yeah.
You've been working in PR for NBC Universal and Nike.
Hmm.
So what happened that made you stop? Because even if you were blessed, I'm sure you had a great salary. Like
Yeah.
in corporate, we have good salaries. When you have responsibilities, team management, we have good salaries, good position.
Yeah.
But what made you decide to leave that lifestyle, to leave that world, to
Yeah.
go for what you had in your heart at that time?
So the universe gave me a good kick in the butt. There was this dream that was present for me, and then I was working at Nike. I was doing PR for Nike again, very very glamorous job, and this was in 2008 when the economy was really bad in the U.S. and Nike went through layoffs. And from one day to the next, I was given the choice and the option to relocate back to New York. I was in LA at the time and continue with Nike or take a severance package. And I literally was given 24 hours to decide, which I just thought was so crazy. And I just thought, you know what? This is my chance. This is my chance to break free, I felt like I was at a crossroads and I could either take that road back to New York, back to corporate life, or I could, take a leap of faith and jump and pursue these other dreams that I had of entrepreneurship, of travel, of adventure. So I chose that. And then I shortly after left to Africa for 3 months and spent 3 months in Africa, and I started my journey of adventure. That was a big instrumental piece of how it happened.
Okay, that's beautiful. That's I guess this is what I call a synchronicity.
Mm,
Synchronicity that is aligned with what you deeply want. Some people can see that as, oh my God, I'm so unlucky. Like I have 24 hours to decide what I'm going to do with that job and see that from a bad perspective.
yeah.
But actually, it's completely aligned with what you want because life is giving you the opportunity to go for what you want. And are you going to have the confidence and the courage to go for it?
Mm.
So you have, as you say, 24 hours. That's not like a week or a month. It's 24 hours. So what happened in your mind during those 24 hours? Did you make your decision like instantly you knew that you would leave or?
I think that there was a part of me that knew right away that I was going to leave, that I was going to take that severance package and see this as my opportunity. but my mind came into play, my mind and the fear and, but what will happen? And what if I don't find another job? And, all the fear. What if I can't pay my bills? And what if, the severance package runs out quickly? And, a lot of doubt and confusion. And will I have another opportunity like this? Second guessing myself. And, what you said, it did seem like a bad thing, to be honest. At the time, it seemed like my world just got pulled out from under me. It wasn't like, oh, what an incredible opportunity. In retrospect, I can see that it was an incredible opportunity and that it was all meant to be. But at the time, it felt scary. And that was a big lesson to me, that sometimes we see things and we perceive them as being, something bad, but actually in retrospect, they can be a huge blessing. And so that was a really beautiful lesson for me. But definitely I had fear and doubt come up.
Okay. Yeah, because it was in alignment with what you wanted. Life or the universe was looking at you and telling you, okay, this is the life you want. So we give you the opportunity. You have 24 hours to go for it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like the ultimate test.
I'm
Yeah.
not a big fan of what if question. I'm not a big fan of remaking the world. But do you think that if that wouldn't have shown up, you would have leave your job, like knowing yourself at that time? Do you think that, of course, things would have been differently, but do you think you would have find the courage and boldness and confidence to leap without that package, for example?
I would like to think that I would have. Eventually, life would have given me, a slightly different set of circumstances, which also would have been an opportunity for me to do that. I think that if something is meant to be, it's just meant to be. So I would like to think that, yes, I would have been presented with another opportunity that would have allowed this, or that voice inside of me that wanted something more would have gotten so loud that there was no choice other than to follow it.
Okay. So people who are looking at us right now um, probably resonate with that. Probably resonate with the fact that, ooh, there is that opportunity, there is that thing that I want to do, but I'm
Yeah.
so afraid to go for it. I resonate with that as well. I've been in the corporate world. I've been in a position where I knew I had to leave. I just knew, and I had that in mind for weeks and weeks and weeks. And one day it was just so obvious that I had to leave, and money was not even like a source of motivation anymore. And the next day I quit.
Mm-hmm.
But what, like, can you give us some more details about your fears? What, like, the stories you were telling yourself and how you overcame those self-sabotaging stories?
Yeah, so the fears were some of the ones I mentioned. Financial security and stability was a big one, to leave a six-figure salary in corporate America. Um, that actually felt safe, which is another lesson, because you think you're safe in a corporate job, but look at my example, from
Yeah.
one day to the next. Um, and so my fears were around financial stability. Definitely, that was a big one. When I ended up leaving to Africa, and camping on the roof of a Land Rover in the bush for weeks, I had the fear that people were going to forget about me. Like I had the idea that I had to get back into the marketplace, that I had to be putting my resume out there and contacting people and, really stay top of mind. And here I was camping in Africa with no cell reception. And there was a part of me that was like, oh, but wait, I need to be doing something now. I need to be finding a job right now, which now that I look back on it, it's so silly, to have wasted energy and time thinking that, when I was like living, an African safari was my absolute dream to do. So here I was experiencing my dream and thinking about getting a job, that's what I should do. So that was a fear that was present for me as well. Yeah, I think those are the biggest ones that come to mind. This illusion of losing security and stability was the big one.
Okay. And what helped you to make the decision? What is,
Hmm.
yeah.
So you mean to just enjoy what I was doing, or to leave Nike and take that
to
path?
to take the leap?
Um, trust. Trust, and it honestly really helped that they were giving me a severance package,
Yeah.
because I thought, okay, well, this gives me at least 3 to 6 months. I was seeing it as like, but that's why it was so scary for me to be in Africa for 3 months, because I thought like, oh, but I need to be out there working on making the next thing happen. What I didn't realize is that I was making the next thing happen by being in
Mm-hmm.
Africa, not
Mm-hmm.
looking for a job.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So faith, trust, confidence. How do you define faith?
Faith to me is trusting that everything is going to be okay, trusting that I am going to be okay, trusting that there is some sort of higher or divine order, and that is for the greatest good, and that everything is happening for a reason.
Okay. Did you tell yourself everything is going to be okay? I'm going to be self. Like, were you telling those sentences to you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I had to at times,
Mm.
because I would get fearful, and I would get nervous, and I would remind myself like, this is what you wanted. Like, you wanted travel and adventure, and now here you are thinking about getting a job or something. So yeah, I would have to give myself pep talks and just remind myself, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? You go back and you look for a job, you stay with friends or family, like, really, the fear was so big, but when I really got down to like, what are you really afraid of? And I imagined that happening, it was like, well, that's actually not that bad. Like, I can
Mhm.
I can get through that. So also, like, just having confidence in myself and my own abilities and my own resourcefulness, that I can figure this out. It's going to be okay. And yes, I was telling myself that.
Okay, great. For people who bought the package, it's something that I talk about in the mini course on manifestation, like affirmations. Telling yourself everything is going to be okay, and your subconscious mind is going to get that message, like, oh, everything is going to be okay. So how you can use faith and self-nourishing stories instead
Mhm.
of self-sabotaging stories, because when you're afraid of something, you make a projection of a possibility that can happen, but it's just a possibility. So if
Yeah.
there is the possibility that it turns out bad, there is the possibility that it turns out well
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, which do you want to put your energy towards?
Yeah,
Can
exactly.
I share another story that I know is a big part of my story, but it's when I took the leap of faith of to go work for Mindvalley. Can I share
That,
a little story about that?
that's what I wanted to talk about, because it, it's another leap of faith you took. And um, I just want to tell people that at the time when you joined Mindvalley was not the company that it is today. It was not the renowned and globally known company that it is today, with a head office in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, which is not the most famous country in the world. And you decided to go for a job that you had basically no experience for, or very little experience for. So, yeah, can you tell us about how that opportunity, again, that is aligned with a lifestyle of travel and working from anywhere,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
that came to you and what happened?
So after my African adventure, I went back to the US and I ended up connecting with some people in my network, some previous employers who wanted to work with me. I set up a business the same day, and then I had a PR and social media consulting company from one day to the next. It got quite successful quite quickly. Um, but to be honest, like my heart wasn't truly in it. And there was a client that I had that paid me really well, but it didn't feel good and it didn't feel right. And for a while I had been thinking about leaving it, like you said. And then one day it was like I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to let this client go, which was very scary because they were my highest paying client. And the bulk of my financial security. Here we go again. But I had to leave it because this feeling was so strong. I felt it in my body. You know, I think this is another thing that's been super important to me is like when you just know, you absolutely know within you. So I let this client go, and literally 2 days later, I'm on Facebook and I see this ad. Is this the world's most awesome job? I wasn't looking for a job. I had my company, but I clicked on the ad out of curiosity. And I swear, had I not taken that leap of faith to let go this client that wasn't in alignment, I don't think I would have seen this ad. It just wouldn't, I didn't have the space for it and it wouldn't have come to me. So I click on this ad and it's, you know, a sales page for Mindvalley. It's a recruitment campaign, a global recruitment campaign to be the head of their events division. And I watched this video and I just got goosebumps. I thought, oh my God, like I have to apply for this. Like I felt it in my entire body. This is for me. But it was crazy because it was in Malaysia. I had never heard of Mindvalley. I had never been to Malaysia. It was a massive pay cut for me, but I knew I had to do it. I just knew I had to do it. And you had to do a video cover letter. So I actually synchronistically had a friend who was in town, who's a film producer. He helped me shoot this video. We edited, shot, sent out the video. The next morning, I had an email from HR saying, Vishen loved your video. He would love to speak with you about this. And they offered me the job on the spot on that interview. I had a house on the water in Miami. I had a new BMW. I had a business with 3 or 4 clients. And I took it. And I closed the business. I explained to my clients, they were very supportive. You know, I put my car on swap a lease and got rid of that. I gave notice to my landlord and I took off to Malaysia. and this was really crazy because I had never heard of this company. I had never been to this country. And definitely I had a few sleepless nights before heading out there of like, oh my God, did I make the right decision? I don't know what I'm getting myself into. Who is this company? Like, you know, I had these doubts. And what I would keep bringing myself back to was that feeling that I had inside of me of when I saw that video. I literally, like, I felt it. There was a part of me that knew without a doubt that things were going to unfold for me to take that path. You know, it's like, it's as if there's a part of us that knows things. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I would bring myself back to when I had these sleepless nights was like, trust that feeling that you had, because then the mind takes over and the mind makes up all these crazy things, but the heart and body knows.
Yeah. In which year did that happen?
This was in 2012.
2012. Okay, so eight years from now. And that's the thing. I'm glad you talk about that. That's the thing. That's the key. It's the feeling. When you have an opportunity, when there is that synchronicity that came to you, there's result of the law of attraction, the manifestation of your desires that come to you. There is most of the time nothing rational, logical about it.
Yeah.
You can have the best IQ on earth. It won't help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not about intelligence. It's about emotions, about what you feel. And this intuition that is within that you cannot explain, that you're ashamed to explain to your parents, friends, because they will judge you and they will tell you that you're crazy.
Mm,
But it doesn't matter because you know, as you said, and you, instead of rejecting that feeling, you accept it,
yeah,
and you start to dig into it to see what it is.
yeah, yeah,
Would you say
absolutely.
that's, yeah, go on.
I was just going to say that the times that, and I think this is like the definition of surrender as well that you were asking about before, is the times that I have followed my heart, my highest excitement, this feeling in my body, even when it doesn't make sense to others, and even when it doesn't make sense to myself sometimes, it's worked out. It's worked out, and it's worked out better than I could have imagined. So those times that I have leapt into, the void, the universe catches me. I'm caught, and it's beautiful. Every time it surprises and delights me.
Mm-hmm. That's great. How would you, how do you recognize the feeling?
Mm.
I know it's really hard to describe, and like from an analytical point of view, but how do you know?
For me, it is hard to describe. For me, it feels like excitement. It feels like a true excitement, like your cells are just like, yes, yes, like I want this, like that's the
Mm-hmm.
only way that I can describe it, is like this real, pure, genuine excitement inside. Like something in you that is just like, yes.
Okay. And would you say that the first leap of faith and surrender that you took by leaving your job in America in the first place helped you to take that second leap? Would you say that it was
Absolutely.
easier?
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. Every time that, it's scary. It's scary to leap into, the void, not seeing a net, and just trust that the net is going to appear. That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
But once it happens, then you're like, oh, okay, so something caught me last time. So you get this, you start to establish a little bit of trust, I would say. Like for me, I trust this now. I trust that if I follow this excitement, that it's going to be okay. And it might not look exactly like what I think it's going to look like, but it's going to be okay. And if I follow this feeling and this highest excitement, it's going to be for my greatest good.
Okay. Yeah, once you face and overcome fears, then it becomes easier to do it again,
Yeah.
because you started to create the habit of facing and overcoming fear. So
Yeah.
the best, like to sum up what you said, I would say that once you have that feeling that is the right thing to do, and you have no idea what the outcome is going to be, it's completely logical and irrational, but within, that's the sign.
Yeah.
That's the sign that, okay, go for it.
Mm.
And I would like to emphasize now that we are not in a Walt Disney cartoon, and there are problems. We have to face challenges.
Yeah.
The first challenges are inside, the fears that we have to face and overcome.
Mm.
And I'm glad that you talk about that you were afraid of lacking money, making mistakes, mm, not being seen as the same person anymore, that you wanted to go back to America because you have to be that person,
Mm.
and you couldn't imagine the rest of your life with what you were doing in Africa at the beginning. But you decided to go for it. You decided to go working in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. You've never been there before, right?
Mm-mm. No, never.
Yeah.
Never been to
Decided
Malta.
decided to go to work for a company you've never heard of before, decided to take a position you had barely no experience in, like head of events
Yeah,
at that
that
time.
was the thing I forgot to mention. I hadn't been working in events, so this was
Mhm.
also a career change. It was a career change, it was a country change, it was a pay change. I mean, everything, my whole life completely changed from, one week to the next.
Okay. So you became the head of events at Mindvalley. So for people who don't know Mindvalley, Mindvalley is the top one company for personal growth today. I would say that,
Mhm.
and start to have a place that is more and more important online and offline. So offline it's hard during this time of COVID, of course, but offline it's mostly took off thanks to Hayfest.
Mhm.
So the event that were organized at the time, that is, well, let's say, a competitor of TED Talk, but it's around the same position of creating a transformational event for people. So you took that job, you took that position, you left to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. You had some sleepless night before, and what happened then? Again, you took another leap of faith. What
Yeah.
happened then?
Ah, it was so basically this whole new chapter of my life began to unfold, and I really felt like I found my passion in the work that I was doing. So previously, I was working in PR, and one of the biggest accomplishments that I could get with Nike was like getting a pair of shoes on the cover of a magazine, which is great. But, I was also feeling like there's got to be a way to have more fulfillment and more um, feel like a deeper connection and tie to purpose through my work. And all of a sudden I was in this position where I was able to create these events that were changing people's lives. I mean, some of the stories that the messages and conversations that I had with people that were at the event of like how this event changed their lives, or how it, awakened them to something, or helped them to make this big transition that they needed to make, or start a new business or whatever. All of a sudden I was doing work that felt really meaningful and really substantial and had a big impact. And also I felt like I was finding like my own art, my own creativity. I really found a strength and a passion in what I was doing. So I really credit that chapter in my life for finding like what lights me up at a very, very deep level. I mean, like I found what I want to do with my life, which is pretty amazing. Um, and, it wasn't without its challenges. It was a new role. I hadn't really organized events, and all of a sudden I'm organizing events for hundreds of people and in a new location every single time. So every time you're starting from scratch in a new country with new laws and regulations and vendors and all of these things. So definitely there were challenges and there were learning curves with that, and going into a new country as well. Um, a huge, massive city where I don't know the language, and all kinds of things with the cultural changes of moving from the U.S. to Malaysia. So there were like layers of challenges, but it was also all an adventure. And I felt so deeply aligned with the work that I was doing. And it also gave me the opportunity to travel a lot, which was my dream. Like this dream of travel and adventure was now unfolding for me.
Okay, that's beautiful. Um, so now you're living your desire. You're working now. So at that time,
Yeah.
I say now in the present tense, following your story. Um, So you have that lifestyle. You're working from anywhere because, as you said, you have to organize events in different locations every year.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the other side of living our desire, the challenges and the problem that you have to
Mm,
face by being there physically.
mm,
So I guess you were working for someone's vision.
mm,
It was a vision like Annie's vision to create this awesome festival.
mm,
So I guess like all big visionaries like him, like Steve Jobs, etc. They are very ambitious people. They know what they want because they can picture it in their mind. So you have
mm,
to create something that exists in their mind. So I
mm,
guess there is that pressure of perfection
mm,
in the first sense because they don't want to create an event. They want to create the event.
mm.
So what are the challenges that you had to face related to that? And I remember last time you told me also like hurricane and like some, I think it was some terrorist attack at that time in Thailand, etc. So what are all the shit that happened that's
Oh gosh.
from maybe pressure to weather to
Yeah.
governments, all the things that you had to deal with?
Yeah. Yeah. So in many ways, I was given a tremendous amount of freedom when it came to the creative vision for A-Fest. I mean, I remember one A-Fest vision texted me the day before to ask me the hotel of where A-Fest was happening. Like that's how much he trusted, us and the team. And I really have to give him credit there because that's what really let me um find and develop my creativity and my passion in this world was that I was given this freedom to experiment and to explore and learn and grow and try things. So I think if I would have come in right from the bat, like this is the vision that you have to execute and there's no creative freedom in there, I wouldn't have been happy and I wouldn't have stayed there as long as I did. That said, of course, there's always challenges, and when you're organizing, two events per year with up to 450 people in a completely different place every year, I mean, there's all kinds of things that can come up. We had an event in Greece when they were dealing with the refugee crisis, which actually we got involved in supporting a bit and doing some volunteer work there. We were having an event in Thailand where there was a political coup, and 2 days before, attendees were wanting to pull out because they thought there was political instability. People were really, really scared. We had a hurricane heading to Mexico when we were about to have an event in Mexico, and actually it ended up hitting New York, and some of our speakers that were flying to the event were affected and couldn't make it. And I mean, one night we almost lit the place on fire. There was a electricity shortage, and there was a crazy rainstorm, and the roof lit on fire a little bit. My DJ, the DJ of the event, was one of my best friends, had his tooth knocked out. I mean, we've had all kinds of crazy things happen. And I mean, one time in Ibiza, we had one of our vendors pull out at the last minute. That was one of the most stressful periods I had. And they were making us jump through hoops with all of these regulations. And there was even a moment where I thought, like, oh my God, we might not be able to do our night events. And this was just a few days before. Unreliable vendors that don't show up, who aren't professional. There were all kinds of challenges that came up, but you just learn. That's one of the ninja skills you have to have as an event producer, is to roll with the punches and to be really resourceful and think on your toes and problem solve problem solve problem solve.
Okay.
And again, it's just part of the adventure, although
Yeah,
although when it's happening it feels like
it's terrible when you have to deal with it.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So how long did you stay at Mindvalley?
About 6 years. So there were the first 4 years, I was the head of events, managing the team. And when I started, the events team was myself and one other person. Um, and now, I mean, gosh, now with COVID, I'm not sure, but it got up to like 20 people recently. But we were the two that started it all, and it was a very small team, and I ran that, and then we started growing. I think by the time I left, I was running a team of maybe 6 or 7, and then I felt like I wanted to start to explore what was next for me. So I started to take some steps back. I was able to leave Kuala Lumpur, but continue working with Mindvalley as the head of events. And then I transitioned my role to keep my favorite things, the things that I really, really loved, but work more on a consultant part-time basis and not manage the team and not be so involved in the day-to-day, but focus on the more creative things that I loved, the overall attendee experience, the parties, choosing the venues and locations, and working with all the artists and things like that. So I did that for the last 2 years. I was the creative director, and 4 years as the head of events.
Okay. Which led us to the next leap of faith you took, because you decided to leave Mindvalley because you felt that you did what you had to do there. And it's rare that we're meant to be in one company forever.
Mm,
It can be Mindvalley, it can be any other company.
yeah.
Um, so what made you decide to leave? Like, was it a feeling again?
It was.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a feeling. It was a feeling that there was something else, and it was time to open up space for something else. That was the feeling I was having, but I didn't know what that new thing was. It wasn't like I had it clear, like, okay, now I want to do this. I was just feeling that it was time to move on, but I didn't know to what. And I literally had won a contest for the world's most awesome job. So like the thought of leaving that, and in many ways it really was an incredible job, and it was hard, it was hard to leave that and to rationalize why I would leave that. And even now it's hard to explain, other than coming back to this thing of having a feeling. Um, and wanting to create space for something else, and also wanting to, as much creative freedom as I did have. It was Vishen's idea and it was his vision, and there was a part of me that felt like, okay, I want to now create and birth my own vision into the world. And so that feeling was becoming stronger for me, even though I didn't really know what that next thing was for me.
Okay. So there is something interesting in all your stories, that there is never 100% clarity. Like,
Mm,
you've never took a leap towards something that you could picture 100% in your mind. It was motivated by a feeling, by a desire,
mm,
that was resonating with you,
mm,
but never something like, yeah, that's that thing 100% that I want to do and I'm going to do it.
mm,
But more following a flow of intuitions and
mm,
feelings.
mm.
So what happened when you left them?
When I left, I felt like what I really wanted to do was to give myself some time and space, because I had become so identified and so wrapped up in me, as it was like Tanya, the AFES director. It was
Mm-hmm.
like I almost kind of didn't know who I was without that. Like my identity had become so tied to that. And I kind of felt like it was like it's a significant relationship. I don't want to just go jump into another relationship. I want to honor that. I want to reflect on that. I want to process that. I want to, really tune into what I want to create next intentionally. So what I really felt I wanted was to just give myself some time and space. I've also been such a hustler. I started working 2 jobs when I was 15 years old. And other than this little period when I went to Africa, I've never stopped, I've just been going, going, going. And I realized like, whoa, I need to just slow down, reconnect with myself, and really, really tune into myself and what it is that I want to do next.
Okay. So what you wanted to do next started to come into your mind. You still had that passion to be an transformational event strategist and designer, and there were this kind of calling for guiding people, for coaching people, leading people. And I remember you told me you decided to go for it, and you were about to, for the first part of this business, you were about to organize big transformational event for one of the leader in the personal growth industry. And then COVID-19 happened and made you take some shifts and within that vision, with what you wanted to accomplish, right?
Yeah. So after I left Mindvalley, I really just, my plan was to do nothing. And then after doing nothing for a while, because I wanted to create a blank slate and from there see what emerged. So after giving myself a long period of time, like over a year of just taking off and really at this time I dove into like spiritual and healing practices and studies and different modalities, and I came to see that I wanted to start to merge all of these practices and tools that I had been studying with events. So as you said, I had signed this very A-list client, and I was also organizing my first retreat in Egypt on the Nile. It was an inner temple retreat, and it was all about returning to our sacred selves that we've often lost touch with in this crazy, busy, digitized world. And I was so excited about this. I mean, I was so excited about this Egypt retreat and about this client. And I was organizing an event for, also like an A-list entrepreneur in New York. And I really felt like, wow, things are coming together and feeling inspired and exciting. And this is amazing. And then COVID hit. And literally from one week to the next, all of this went away. These projects went away, the clients went away, the income went away, all in a very short period of time, 1 week. And again, my whole world was turned upside down. And I also had the thing of being here in Bali, and my house was in Ibiza. So basically, I lost not only my income, my clients, and my projects, but also my home in Ibiza. I ended up, just stepping out of that as well. And, I think this was really another example and time that I just surrendered. It was like I surrendered to this flow of life that was taking me in another direction. And one day I was dancing as part of my morning practice, and it came to me so clearly like what I wanted to do next, which is to go deeper, exploring the theme that we were going to work with in Egypt, this inner temple retreat, and how do I help guide people back into deep connection with themselves, which is also a lot of my own personal story. When I was going through these chapters in corporate America, I was just working and very accomplishment driven, and my whole life was like a to-do list. And I realized that I had actually become a bit disconnected with myself, and that's why also that crossroad of taking that leap of faith was so important to me, because it was also a way of like getting back to myself. So this came through very, very passionate, very strongly for me in terms of like what I wanted to do next. And so then I just shifted directions, and started diving into that area, which has now been my focus for the past 6 to 8 months, however long it's been. Longer.
Yeah, a bit more than 6 months now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's beautiful. Again, that's life put COVID on your way, and kind of told you at that time, like, hey, there is another path for you. Are you ready? Are you willing to take it or not? And it took time. As you said, you had to, in 1 week, your world broke down, compared to what you had planned for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So it's okay if we have to take time to figure out what to do next. Like this insight that you have while you were dancing, it didn't show up like 1 week after. It came to you a few weeks, month after. It's okay if we don't know.
Yeah.
It's we don't have to force ourselves to know. It takes time. It can take weeks, months before
Yeah.
to really feel that, yeah, that's the thing that we have to do.
Yeah, and I also feel that when you make big decisions like this, you want it to be from a place of center, of balance, of groundedness, of connection. If you make a decision like very quickly and out of fear, and out of scarcity, then most likely that is not going to be the right decision, because the energy behind it and the intention behind it is not, it's not in the right place, so for me, I think it's important to give them things time, and to make sure that the decision that you're making comes from a place of deep connection and alignment, and isn't like this kind of like reactive, it's not coming from this reactive, fearful place, which can happen, and it's totally normal.
Yeah. So follow that ID, follow that intuition that you have within, that um, give you a smile when you think about it, even if you have makes you afraid. But if it gives you a smile, if it gives you goosebumps, if it make your heart going a little bit faster, that's the sign that, okay, there is something waiting for me there. Let's go for
Totally.
it.
Yes, 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 yes.
Right. I have two more questions before to finish this interview. We're almost at 1 hour interview already. Um, if you knew that your next step would guarantee you 100% chance of success, like no matter what you're doing, you know that you're going to succeed. There is no discussion about it. What is that thing right now that you, Tanya, would do out of complete blind faith?
I mean, honestly, in a way, I feel like I'm doing it. Like all I've wanted is to find my greatest gifts and passions, and to share them with the world, and to live in alignment and with a sense of purpose and freedom. And I really feel that I have that now, and that I feel like I'm constantly stepping more into who I am, and it feels incredible. Of course, when the world opens up again, I would love to now merge these worlds of personal growth and events, and create like epic events and experiences. But I really feel like I'm on the right path. I truly feel that. And it's such an incredible feeling. The only other thing that comes to me is that I've always been super drawn to like the arts, music, performance, like basically any sort of art. I've never really considered myself, other than writing, like a strong, I don't know, artist, let's say. Although designing events in a way became my art, really. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, because I was going to say, like, I would maybe go for something in the artistic world, like more creative expression, more artistry, knowing that, it would be met with success. And even that, in a way, I feel like I'm finding my own way to make my art, like making my work my art, my life my art. So yeah, that's what I would say. And it feels really good to say that I feel like I'm doing it.
That's great. So, but embody even more creativity
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
expression, artistic expression.
Yeah, to step into that even more.
Okay, thank you. And last question, what is your best advice for someone who have an idea, an intuition, a feeling, a calling, a vision in their mind, in their heart, but they're afraid to go for it, or they already decided to go for it, but now they feel stuck, or fears came back, the fears show up again.
Mm.
What is your best advice?
I would say that if that idea and thought exists for you, it's possible, because it's like impossible to have a thought or an idea that you can't step into, because then you wouldn't have it. And so to just follow that, it's what we've been talking about this whole time, is like to develop your connection to yourself so that you can feel in your body this excitement, and to just follow that excitement, to take directions in the step of your highest excitement, and to let that guide you, and to trust. That would be my biggest advice.
Great. And people can reach out to you if they want to know more about that, and if they're interested in knowing more about your story and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning, as a conscious connection coach, the work that I'm so passionate about is like, how do we develop personal practices to help bring us back into connection with ourselves? Because from that place, we can really create the life that is deeply aligned for us. And so that's what my coaching work revolves around. So yes, if anybody sees this and this resonates for them, and they would like to get in touch about my programs, or how we could potentially work together to help them move in the direction of their dreams, whatever that is, then by all means, like, yes, you can reach out to me. I would love to hear from you, from them.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tanya. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your story and showing that, yeah, it's possible. You're a living example of, yeah, it's possible to follow our desires. It's possible to leap. It's possible to create life and lifestyle out of faith by following our heart and the following the intuition and feelings that we have. I'm glad you shared that with us today. I wish you a lovely day, and I look forward to hearing back from you again.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing it.
Great. Thank you. See
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.